Rachele, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Why did you start your business?
Well, I started my business because I always knew that working for someone else was not the path I wanted to take.
Mm-hmm.
Never was raised to be a career-minded person. I planned on having kids and getting married. Quickly discovered that that's not a stable way to build your life, and found myself a single mother with 3 young kids under the age of 5.
Wow.
And no idea how I was going to provide for them, and not wanting to put them in daycare. So that was my first official go at being an entrepreneur. I started a business making brochures and doing newsletters for businesses. And that has just evolved to learning about the online world and discovering the search engine optimization that goes on to make your website more visible. So not just the design, but learning how to get your message across.
Do you feel that you had any special background or talents or abilities to go into business? I mean, what gave you the sense that you could go into business and be successful?
Well, fortunately, my parents were, although they weren't together, they both had a bit of an entrepreneurial mindset. And so I saw my mother attempt, she was a Shackley distributor, she was a Mary Kay distributor, and it just gave me the idea at a young age that I don't have to work a job. Mm-hmm. And my father has owned multiple businesses, and he's been in real estate, and he is actually the one that introduced me to Tony Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki at an early adult age. And so those were the seeds that were planted, that there's another option out there, that working a 9-to-5 is not the only choice that I have in this world. Mm-hmm. Also, I started writing at a very young age, and was a published poet at like 15. And it gave me the realization that this could go somewhere bigger than just writing for fun. So those two things.
I think it's wonderful. And I just want to address the fact that not everybody has entrepreneurial parents. I certainly didn't. And people to introduce them to people the likes of Tony Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki. I was 40 when I learned about those people. So it's not a lost cause. But I think what is important about what you said is to look around you and find those people in your life. They may not be related to you, but there's lots of people out there. You can find them on the internet. You can find them in books. You can find them on YouTube. YouTube is full of things. So just by doing a Google search of, you'll probably end up finding lots of information. And don't hesitate to reach out to people and join groups of people who are entrepreneurs, because what you'll find in that is the inspiration. And it's interesting to me what prompts people to say, I'm going to not go back and get a job. I'm not going to try to build my life so that it goes around the job that I have, but rather build a business that works with my life. Is that kind of the thinking you had?
Yeah, that was definitely my thinking. And I have to say that my first go round was not a success. It took me many, many years and many different attempts to begin to learn what was going to be required and to get it figured out. So yeah, it's been a rough road, but very worth it.
So this is, and I'm glad that you're being transparent and real with us, because that's the whole point of this. It doesn't always, the ending could be great, but the process to get to the ending isn't always as fun as it might appear. So I'm going to ask you some questions about that process, because I think it's for somebody that's just thinking about starting a business, or for somebody that finds themselves in the middle of that process and it isn't working for them. What are some of the things that you went through that you obviously came out the other end of? What were some of the challenges you had in building your business, in other words?
Well, initially, my first attempt was kind of foiled by the fact that I did not have the money to take care of technical issues. I was in at that point, we were still using dial-up internet and the AOL and all of that. And so it was a brand new field, although I did go to school for the graphic design part of it, but I didn't have the money to take care of, say, a computer that went down. And so in that process, I lost clients. So learning that I needed to have backup plans, prepared for contingencies of that nature. So that was the beginning. More recently, it's been a big struggle with mindset and exploring what my hindrances have been around money. And that's an early phase. I know for a lot of people, sales is intimidating, and I got over that real quick when I was a Tupperware agent, and again in a situation where I urgently had to have some income, and I pulled out the yellow pages and learned real quick how to get over my intimidation of calling people and setting appointments and so forth. So
that's really interesting to me that you, two things I heard in your statement there. One was necessity can sometimes push you through an experience that maybe if it wasn't so imperative that you earn money, maybe you would have just procrastinated a little longer. So there's the necessity. But the second is you went and you found some experiences that helped you. And in this case, in a direct sales company where they tend to give people a lot of really good training on sales. So that's that's just a hint. Robert Kiyosaki, if you've read his books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he wrote a book on direct sales. And he said, if you can find a direct sales company that you like, that can teach you the things you need, well, you apply that to anything in your job. That sounds like what you did. So what have been some of the things that, if I were to ask you to give some advice to somebody who is just getting started or kind of has come up against that wall and needs to get through it, what is some advice you might give a person about that?
Well, I would definitely say don't give up. Sometimes you have to take a step back, as I many times did when I realized that I could not move forward for whatever reason. My computer was down. I couldn't provide services. So I did have to take a step back and get a job and not see it as a defeat, but a temporary learning curve, so to speak. The other thing is read everything you can get your hands on regarding your area of interest, and also anything regarding entrepreneurship, because that mindset piece, even though I've done a lot of direct sales companies, I've lost track how many, and I learned a lot of what I needed in those, but the mindset piece is up to you. Until you reach the point, if you're able to get a coach or a mentor, essential. But in the beginning stages, read everything you can get your hands on. It's very motivating. Gives you a lot of times you can read stories of other people and realize, hey, okay, so they break it down. This is how I did it. And you're like, well, I can do that too. It's not that difficult. So that's reading is probably the top. Read and don't give up.
Read and don't give up. And when you're feeling like giving up, maybe that's a good time to go and read.
Yes, exactly. Pick up a book and remember, oh yeah, it's not so hard.
Well, and I think what you're saying too about getting support. I've done blogs on this subject. I said, you know, being an entrepreneur is a lonely profession. And it's really important to surround yourself with like-minded people who are at different levels in that journey to success. Is there, in terms of this journey, because it sounds like it was a long journey for you. Obviously, the kids were little when you started; they're grown now, so we can measure by that. But what would you say is the biggest contribution to your sense of yourself that has come from you running your own business?
Learning that I actually have skills that to me seem, I mean, to sit down and write a letter, no big deal to me, but finding out that it is to other people, and that I have something that I can offer that is very valuable. And it's not just, instead of dismissing it and minimizing, oh, yeah, I can write, but I don't really have anything spectacular to offer. But starting my own business has helped me to realize that it is more extraordinary than I've given myself credit for.
That's an interesting thing. I just, a woman in one of my masterminds said this the other day. She said, the things that come to us easily, we don't appreciate how difficult they might be for other people. And so,
Yeah.
you know, one of the things I would say, and I don't know whether you did this, was just hear from your clients and hear from the people that you're helping. And even to the point of going and saying to them, why did you hire me? What was behind what I was doing for you? It seemed so easy for me, but what did you know, there are people that hate writing. They sit down and they break into a cold sweat, and here you are, this is your job. So let's talk about what it is you do for people.
I had been writing my whole life, so that is the basis of what I do. And I am expanding because I'm learning about I have learned a lot about the search engine optimization, maximizing your visibility online. And so what I do, my aim is to help business owners go from being confused and frustrated about how do I even let people know I'm in business. I mean, it used to be easy. You put an ad in the paper, you put up a flyer. It's not so easy these days. You hear the terms, you know, landing page, SEO, and these words sometimes are completely foreign to people. So my goal is to help people understand what these are, and more importantly, how they benefit their business. I've heard people say, oh, I don't need a blog because I'm a local business, or I don't need that because I've got my website built. I don't need anybody to do anything for it. You don't realize what you need until you see that there's a benefit. So I want to help people see that there is benefits to optimizing their websites and taking advantage of content. So in that, I do email marketing. I help them create their website content and pretty much anything that they need with regard to marketing their business.
And that, I mean, you just said the word that optimize, and I'm sure that a lot of people have no idea what it is you just said.
Exactly.
And yet these are the very things that can make the difference between success and lack of success, the people finding them, not finding them. So
Yes.
You said you had something that you'd like to offer to the people who have been listening to this interview. And what is that?
Well, what I have is a worksheet that is 10 steps to a website with personality. So this worksheet walks you through 10 points to think about before you start designing and planning your website, so that you can have a website that's unique and stands out, so it draws attention and you can be seen.
That I love that, and we'll put the link to that that freebie from Rachele, down below. And I really encourage people to get, I know I'm going to go take a look at it. Even if you have a website, wouldn't it be helpful to know whether or not your website is doing what it's supposed to do? I'm just so delighted that we had this conversation, and I know it's going to be very beneficial to some of the women who are listening, because the fact that it didn't happen overnight for you, as much of a disappointment as that might have been at the time. I think it's the fact that you persevered, you didn't quit, you kept reading, you kept working, and now you have a business that you can make a living from. And I just think that's fabulous. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
Thank you.